Navigation settings. Okay, navigation settings. We have three different items here. One of them is the safety margin. The safety margin is for the following. There's different scoring systems. I think now with the new rules, this is mainly for competition, the new rules have now defined that we're going to be using WGS84. Okay. In the past, there was kind of a void. Some people would use WGS84. Some people would use Flysphere. And that is the map datum. I don't know if everybody knows what the map datum is. It's basically how the Earth is projected. Okay. And what happens is by using different map datums, if you try to calculate the distance to a particular coordinate, depending on the map datum, it'll be different. Okay, so from this coordinate to that coordinate on a different datum will give you a different distance. Right, so when we defined a waypoint around one point and we say it's 400 meters, okay, if you're working on a different datum, in one datum you'll be 400 meters distance, but if you're using a different one, different calculation method, you'll be at a different distance and maybe you haven't done the 400 meters. Okay, so you might accidentally miss the point. So because there was differences in datum, some people would use, some organizers used Flysphere, others used WGS84. This could be a problem. So what we did is we created a safety margin which automatically takes 10 meters off the distance. Okay, so if the distance that you've set for a waypoint is 400 meters, it will only consider that you've crossed the waypoint when you go to 390. Okay, so it's that safety margin. Today they've changed the rules and now everybody uses WGS84. Hopefully this will be implemented this year already. So the safety margin doesn't make any sense anymore. Okay, still it's there. The turn point size is the default turn point size. So whenever you set a turn point, it automatically assumes 400 meters. Maybe you go to a competition where they always use 200 meters. So you don't have to change all the time. You can set that so that you have a smaller size when you're in a place where everybody just uses 200 meters more often than 400 or whatever distance may be. And the datum is what I was mentioning. So the instrument also can work on different datums. Beginning of this year, they wanted to get everything on Flysphere, but then they decided to change it to WGS84. So we were giving the option of using one or the other. Keep it on WGS84 for the current situation. Okay. Airspace settings. Okay. Airspace settings available on all the instruments except for the Vario. Distance to the CTR, that's the distance to a airspace area at which point it warns you. So if you get within 2 kilometers, 2,000 meters, it warns you. Altitude threshold, that means if you are underneath an airspace and you are going up in this airspace, going in a thermal, when you get to 200 meters below the airspace, so you almost, if you climb another 200 meters, you'll be inside airspace, you get a warning. Okay. Another thing is which altitude is used as reference. Okay, so what does the instrument use to calculate the altitude? GPS altitude is what most competition organizers use, so keep it at that. But if you want to use barometric, it has 3 different settings.
But this means with the 3D airspace that the airspace can go this way up. So no, this is not right.
No. Airspace it's flat. Okay, so it's at a certain point. It'll give you so you have an airspace which would be, imagine this, but here this is airspace. Okay, so I can fly underneath this without a problem. That's why it's. But if I start to go up here, when I get in here, that's when I'm going into airspace. Okay? Okay. So that's the idea of the 3D airspace.
This means 3D.
That's 3D. Yeah. Okay. In the meantime, I may have another airspace which comes here. Okay. So I might be flying like this, and then I come to this airspace, and here now I'm going to hit the airspace. So I've got to come down and fly underneath, or maybe this comes all the way to the ground. So at this point, the only choice I have is to not fly into this, fly around.
And you just have to push enter again, and you can change the settings for the airspace.
So okay, the setting of the airspace, which was what I was going to show you. You have the reference altitude. The reference altitude is what the instrument uses to check the altitude. Does it use GPS? Does it use the altimeter setting that you set manually? Does it use flight level? Flight level is a standard altitude at 1013.25. Okay. So generally keep it at GPS altitude. Whether it's enabled or not, maybe you don't want to enable airspace, maybe you just want to fly into airspace and okay. often when I fly back home, there's a lot of times I have to ignore airspace because we have an airspace in my area which is only activated at certain times. So
we have an X-Alps competitor here. What do you recommend? Which setting?
GPS. They'll probably tell you. Just the rules. Yeah, most of it, because it's the only one that's actually measurable at the moment. The barometric, it's measurable. We have a way of actually making things, taking everything to the same base. It's something that I've actually proposed, but it hasn't gone ahead yet. So let's see what happens there. But at the moment, it's GPS. And again, this grey lines means the following: if you want the airspace that you are inside, it's a polygon that you are inside. If you want that one to be black and the other ones to be grey, or you want everything just to be black. So that's what the grey lines do.
Can we see it graphically maybe?
Yes, we can. Actually, we did a little while ago, but... Okay, so let me change page here. This is my airspaces page. At the moment, here we go. This is going to be an interesting example because we are violating airspace. The guys that are training for X-Alps will probably be familiar with this. This airspace, as you can see, this is Salzburg. You recognize it? Yeah, so this is roughly in Salzburg. And at the moment it says I'm violating airspace. Okay? Because that's the area of the airport. Okay? And what it says is if I want to get out of airspace, I have to either go down 300 meters, and because my altitude, which is on the top left corner, is 300 meters, that means I've got to land. That's the only way I can get out. Another way I can get out is if I fly, I'm 1,800 meters inside the airspace. So if I fly 1,800 meters, that's the closest edge of the airspace. Okay, so looking graphically, I can decide to get out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn. Level off. And then, because this is one of these new gliders, it's a, what's the glider? It's the new
Sport 2.
Sport 2. And when you push the speed bar on this thing, it really goes fast. Eh? It's now going at 180 kilometers per hour.
Where do you see the speed?
You don't see it on there because I don't have it. It's at the moment I have it there, over 80 kilometers per hour. Okay, so I'm getting to the edge of the airspace. Oh, by the way, let me just stop here quickly so I can show you what else it's saying. On the top right side of there, you see it says violating. That means I'm violating the airspace. Okay, I'm inside airspace.
But normally there are also acoustics too then.
There is. It sounded a little while ago, if you remember, when we first started. Yeah. It only sounds once. It warns you, and then it comes here, and you have to decide. Obviously, I don't want to have it beeping all the time. Actually, the guy, Harry from Redson, has actually proposed that we keep on making a noise.
It will also make your heartbeat go up, but that's another point.
So we're nearly out of the airspace. 900. Okay, here we go. We're out. Okay.
And how do you ensure that you have the latest airspace information? So do you do?
It's up to the pilot to be sure that he has the latest airspace information. Okay, because airspace is very dynamic. It changes from day to day. We preload the instruments that are coming to Germany. We preload them with the German and Austrian airspace, but it's dynamic. Okay, things can change from one day to the other. There's several servers. We can then give you the links where you can download the airspace files and upload them onto the instrument. I'll show you in a few minutes how it's done. Now I'm not in the airspace. Now notice that it says position imminent. Okay, that means that, let me zoom in. Let me slow this down, otherwise we're going to leave this all together. Let me zoom into the map. Okay, so let's see if I can get a better image. There we go. Okay. So there you see the drawing of the airspace. Okay. I'm at the moment 869 meters from the airspace edge. Okay? And it says that I'm positioned on the right side. It says position imminent. That means that I am in the imminent of going into the airspace. I'm very close. Okay? That means that if because I'm approaching an airspace, which if I want to go through it, I need to go down 300 meters. Okay? So I'm going to go to a different place. Okay, I'm going to go down here quickly. Not here, maybe a little bit more there. So basically I'm flying parallel to the airspace. And I'm going to try and get, because there's an area below, further to the south, where you already have, where the Red Bull is actually going to take place, where you already have some place to fly. Because here you cannot fly, this is airport.
So, but in the end it tells you, if you want to go to this airspace, you have to go 300 meters down.
Which
in this case you have to land, in other cases you can fly underneath.
Yeah, because you're at 300 meters altitude, if you go down 300 meters you're on the ground. Okay.
Yeah, we have some standard airspaces like this in the Inn Valley. You have like big restrictions.
Okay, now I'm going as fast as I can. I'm actually approaching airspace at the moment just to see what happens. By the rate I'm going at, I'm going to be coming into airspace because I'm flying parallel, but I'm kind of turning into it. You can see I'm getting closer and closer all the time. And in about a minute or two, it's going to say,
this would be the airspace. And I come here, would you show me then the shortest space to the top?
It doesn't consider, we never consider the top. So if you have an airspace, okay, now we're into the airspace, so that's the siren. The message pops up to tell me I'm in airspace, and now it says I'm violating airspace. Okay. Getting to your question, if you have an airspace where it's underneath you, we consider that we're flying gliders. When we're flying gliders, we cannot guarantee that we're going to stay up. Well, if you're flying an airplane, you also can't. So because we have no engine and we're going to likely glide down, when you try to fly over an airspace, it's going to warn you. So it doesn't say you're violating. It says it's altitude imminent, okay? But it will warn you even if you are above. Let's say the airspace is at 100 meters and you're flying at 2,000 meters and you go over it, you get a warning. But the other way around, you're flying at, let's say, 100 meters and the airspace is at 1,000, it doesn't warn you. So it only warns you from the top. On the bottom, it only warns you if you're getting close. If you understand what I mean.
You have no information
What
from
is the
where
height?
to where the airspace exactly is at this position. Which means Salzburg is from
So beginning on 1,000.
No, it tells you, you can deduct that from what you see there. Okay, you can do a mental calculation and it does it for you. So what it says is, and I'm taking you to a place in Salzburg where that happens. So that's why I'm flying there. It's going to take still a few minutes to get there. If you get into an airspace, what it was showing is, let's say the airspace, you're flying at 2,000 meters. And let's say the airspace, the base of the airspace is 1,500. What it says to you is minus 500. That means you must, if you go down 500 meters, you can fly underneath it. So it tells you that it may be an easier way to read. Instead of having to think, okay, I'm at 2,000. I have to go to 1,500. What it's telling you is you go down.
Yes, but after the 6 days, all the athletes have a program with the calculation.
That's why it does the calculation for you.
Yeah.
The calculation says go down 500. There's no calculation. It does the calculation for you. If you see I'm at 2,000. The airspace is at 1,500. Or let's make it a little more difficult. I'm at 2,130 and the airspace is at 1,632. How many meters do I have to go down after 6 days?
That's not go down.
Go down. So that's what it says. Yeah, it says how much you have to go down. Point. It doesn't. You don't have to see how much you have to go down. It tells you. We'll see in a second.